Ibrahim Traoré, the bold leader of Burkina Faso, has become a symbol of defiance in a world that often punishes independence. Since rising to power, Traoré has survived multiple assassination attempts, each one a testament to the threats he poses to powerful interests. Undeterred, he walks a dangerous path with unshakable resolve, inspiring a nation hungry for true sovereignty. His survival is not luck. It is a reflection of deep-rooted support from his people and his fierce commitment to African unity. Every failed plot against him only strengthens his legend as a fearless defender of freedom. Traoré might have survived, but there are many other African presidents who were not so lucky like him. Throughout Africa's tumultuous history, numerous leaders have emerged, championing independence and social justice, only to meet tragic ends through assassination. These untimely deaths often stem from political rivalries, colonial legacies, and foreign interventions, reflecting the continent's struggle for sovereignty and stability. The assassinations of these prominent figures not only disrupted their nation's trajectories, but also left deep scars on the collective memory of their people. The loss of visionary leaders has had lasting impacts, shaping the political landscape and influencing future generations in their quest for freedom and dignity. The echoes of their aspirations continue to resonate across the continent today. These are the African leaders that were assassinated. 1. Muammar Gaddafi, Libya. Muammar Gaddafi, once the fiery revolutionary who overthrew Libya's monarchy in 1969, ruled for over 4 decades with ambition, audacity, and a vision for a united Africa. Love him or hate him, Gaddafi was no ordinary leader. He challenged Western dominance, pushed for a pan-African currency backed by gold, and aimed to free the continent from economic shackles. But such dreams come with a price. In 2011, amid the chaos of the Arab Spring and a NATO-backed uprising, Gaddafi's fate was sealed. Western powers, under the banner of protecting civilians, launched a military intervention that shattered Libya's stability. Cornered in his hometown of Sirte, Gaddafi was captured by rebel forces, brutalized, and killed on October 20, 2011. A cold, chaotic end broadcast to the world. No trial, no justice, just silence from those who cheered his fall. His death wasn't just the end of a regime. It was the assassination of a leader who dared to challenge the global status quo. In the vacuum left behind, Libya plunged into turmoil, and Africa lost a powerful, if controversial, voice. Gaddafi's ghost still haunts the corridors of power, a stark reminder of what happens when a leader threatens empire. 2. Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara was a Burkinabe revolutionary and the president of Burkina Faso from 1983 until his assassination in 1987. Often referred to as Africa's Che Guevara, Sankara championed anti-imperialism, women's rights, and sustainable development. He implemented radical reforms, including land redistribution, nationalization of resources, and a focus on education and healthcare. His policies aimed to reduce dependence on foreign aid and empower the populace. Sankara's vision and reforms made him a popular figure, but they also garnered enemies, including those within the military and political elite. On October 15, 1987, he was assassinated during a coup led by his former ally Blaise Compaoré. The coup was reportedly supported by external forces, including France, concerned about Sankara's radical policies. His death marked a tragic turning point for Burkina Faso, leading to years of authoritarian rule and the stifling of the progressive ideals he embodied. 3. Patrice Lumumba, DRC. Patrice Lumumba was a Congolese independence leader and the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, then Congo-Leopoldville, after its independence from Belgium in 1960. A charismatic figure, Lumumba advocated for national unity and social justice, positioning himself against colonial influences and foreign exploitation. His leadership was marked by a commitment to Pan-Africanism and economic independence. However, his tenure was short-lived due to political instability, rising tensions, and Cold War dynamics. In September 1960, Lumumba was dismissed from office by President Joseph Kasavubu and subsequently arrested. After being transferred to rebel-held territory, he was executed on January 17, 1961. His assassination was facilitated by a conspiracy involving the Belgian government and the CIA, fearing his influence and socialist leanings. Lumumba's death symbolized the tragic fate of many African leaders who sought to assert sovereignty, and it left a lasting impact on Congo's political landscape and international relations. 4. Samuel Doe, Liberia. Samuel Doe was a Liberian military officer who rose to power in 1980 after leading a coup that overthrew the Americo-Liberian elite. Initially seen as a stabilizing figure, his regime became increasingly authoritarian, marked by human rights abuses and corruption. Doe's leadership faced significant challenges, including a civil war that erupted in the late 1980s, led by Charles Taylor and other factions. In September 1990, Doe was captured during the Civil War. He was taken to a rebel-controlled area, where he was subjected to brutal treatment. On September 9, Doe was executed by firing squad, and graphic images of his death circulated widely. His assassination marked a turning point in Liberia's tumultuous history, leading to further conflict and instability in the region. 5. Sylvanus Olympus, Togo. Sylvanus Olympio, the first president of independent Togo, was a man of vision, intellect, and quiet determination. Educated and diplomatic, he sought to build a sovereign nation free from foreign domination. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Olympio resisted the neo-colonial grip of France, refusing to align Togo too closely with its former colonizer. His most defiant act: rejecting demands to integrate French-trained soldiers into his army, a move that angered powerful interests both within and beyond Togo. On January 13, 1963, that resistance cost him his life. A group of disgruntled former soldiers, led by a young surgeon named Achin Nasingbe Iavema, stormed the US Embassy in Loma, where Olympio sought refuge. There, just steps from safety, he was gunned down, Africa's first post-independence president to be assassinated. Though framed as a mutiny over unpaid wages, deeper forces were at play. Olympio's assassination marked the beginning of a tragic pattern across Africa. Leaders who resisted neo-colonial control were eliminated, paving the way for military regimes and decades of instability. His death wasn't just the fall of a man. It was the silencing of a new African vision, one too bold for the powers that be. 6. Samora Machel, Mozambique. Samora Machel, Mozambique's first president and a fierce liberation fighter, embodied the spirit of African independence. A revolutionary leader who helped break the chains of Portuguese colonialism, Machel envisioned a free, united, and self-reliant Africa. But that vision made him a target. A staunch socialist and ally of other liberation movements, he challenged apartheid South Africa and Western-backed interference, making powerful enemies. On October 19, 1986, Machel's plane mysteriously crashed near the South African border after returning from a summit in Zambia. Officially ruled an accident, the story never convinced the world. The Soviet-made Tupolev jet had allegedly been lured off course by a false navigational beacon. A sophisticated trick few believe could be executed without state-level coordination. All signs pointed to foul play, with suspicion falling heavily on the apartheid regime and its Western allies, who feared Machel's growing influence. The crash killed Machel and 33 others, silencing a bold voice for African unity and justice. His death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a strategic blow to the anti-colonial movement. Today, many still believe it was an assassination masked as misfortune, a calculated effort to eliminate a leader who dared to dream beyond the borders drawn by imperial power. 7. Marien Ngouabi, Rep of Congo. Marien Ngouabi, the revolutionary leader of the Republic of Congo, was a bold visionary who became president at just 31, the youngest head of state in Africa at the time. A staunch Marxist-Leninist, he declared Congo the first People's Republic in Africa, aligning with socialist ideals and resisting Western capitalist influence. Ngouabi championed the working class, nationalized key industries, and called for African unity and independence from neo-colonial control. But his radical politics and rejection of Western dominance made him a marked man. On March 18, 1977, Ngouabi was brutally assassinated under murky and suspicious circumstances in Brazzaville. Official accounts claimed internal conspiracy, but whispers of foreign interference were never far behind. His bold reforms threatened entrenched interests at home and abroad, and his death followed a familiar pattern: a progressive African leader silenced just as his vision gained traction. The aftermath was swift and bloody, a series of purges, arrests, and political instability. His assassination marked yet another chapter in the tragic history of Africa's betrayed revolutions. Murray Ngouabi wasn't just a president, he was a symbol of youth-driven change and fearless defiance. His life was short, but his legacy continues to echo through the streets of Brazzaville and beyond. 8. Ibrahim Barre, Niger. Ibrahim Barre Manassara, a military man turned president, rose to power in Niger through a 1996 coup, promising stability and reform. Though his rule was marked by controversy, including a heavily criticized election, Barre positioned himself as a nationalist determined to steer Niger away from foreign manipulation. But his leadership unsettled powerful interests, both inside and outside the country. On April 9, 1999, his life was cut short in a hail of bullets at Diori Hamani International Airport, gunned down by members of his own presidential guard. Official narratives were vague, the investigation quickly buried, and no one was ever held accountable. Many believe his assassination was more than an internal power grab. It was the elimination of a leader who defied expectations and threatened entrenched systems of control. Barre's death left Niger in turmoil and added another name to the long list of silenced African leaders. 9. Laurent Désiré Kabila, Rep Congo. Laurent Désiré Kabila, the fiery revolutionary who toppled Mobutu Sese Seko's long dictatorship, rose to power in 1997 with promises of a new Congo. A staunch nationalist, he resisted foreign control and sought to reclaim the country's vast mineral wealth for its people. But bold defiance came at a high cost. On January 16, 2001, Kabila was shot inside his presidential palace by one of his own bodyguards, a shocking betrayal that shook the nation. Officially labeled an internal dispute, the assassination sparked widespread speculation. Many pointed fingers at foreign powers and corporate interests who've had much to lose under Kabila's leadership. His death bore all the hallmarks of a calculated elimination, not a spontaneous act. In killing Kabila, they silenced a leader who dared to stand against exploitation. But his legacy lives on in the struggle for Congolese sovereignty, and the questions that still linger over who truly ordered his death. 10. Mohamed Boudiaf, Algeria. Mohamed Boudiaf, a founding father of Algeria's revolution, returned from 27 years in exile to lead a nation on the brink. In 1992, amid political chaos and rising extremism, he was appointed president to restore order and hope. A principled reformer, Boudiaf vowed to crush corruption, confront Islamist militancy, and revive Algeria's revolutionary spirit. But his bold stance made him dangerous to those benefiting from the status quo. On June 29, 1992, during a public speech in Annaba, Boudiaf was assassinated, shot at close range by a bodyguard in front of live television cameras. The official story blamed a lone Islamist, but many suspected deeper conspiracies within Algeria's shadowy power structure. His killing was more than a murder, it was a message. Reform would not come easily. Boudiaf died a patriot's death, silenced for daring to clean house. His assassination remains one of Algeria's most haunting, unanswered tragedies. 11. João Bernardo Vieira, Guinea-Bissau. João Bernardo Nino Vieira, the longtime strongman of Guinea-Bissau, was a survivor of coups, wars, and political storms. Rising to power after independence, he ruled for decades with cunning and charisma, navigating Cold War politics and internal rebellions. But in a nation plagued by instability and drug trafficking, even the most seasoned leader couldn't escape the shadows forever. On March 2, 2009, just hours after the Army Chief of Staff was killed in a bomb attack. Vieira was brutally assassinated by enraged soldiers in what appeared to be a retaliatory killing. Official accounts were murky, and rumors swirled of deep-rooted rivalries, foreign interference, and criminal networks pulling the strings. Vieira's violent death marked the tragic end of an era and symbolized the deep fractures within Guinea-Bissau's fragile state. A man once hailed as a liberator was ultimately consumed by the chaos he long managed to control. 12. Francois Tombalbaye, Chad. Francois Tombalbaye, Chad's first president, rose to power after leading the country to independence from France in 1960. A charismatic nationalist, he sought to build a strong, unified state, but his rule soon turned authoritarian. Tombalbaye's policies alienated key ethnic groups and led to widespread dissatisfaction. His oppressive tactics and favoritism towards certain regions sparked anger and rebellion across Chad. On April 13, 1975, Tombalbaye's reign ended in violence. He was assassinated in a military coup, orchestrated by his own closest allies. Soldiers stormed the presidential palace and killed him, believing his authoritarian rule was plunging Chad into deeper chaos. The exact motives behind the assassination remain unclear, but it was undoubtedly the result of mounting discontent and a desire for change. Tombalbaye's death marked the end of an era in Chad's tumultuous political history, leaving the country in a spiral of instability and military control for years to come. 13. William Richard Talbot Jr., Liberia. William Richard Talbot Jr., the 19th President of Liberia, was a man of ambition and reform. Taking office in 1971, he sought to modernize Liberia, improve its education system, and strengthen its economy. However, his vision clashed with deep-rooted corruption, inequality, and dissatisfaction among the nation's youth and military. As discontent simmered, Talbot's leadership faced mounting pressure from within. On April 12, 1980, Talbot's rule came to a violent end. A group of military officers, led by Samuel Doe, launched a coup against him. Talbot was captured, and after a swift trial, he was executed by firing squad along with several of his government officials. His assassination marked the beginning of a brutal military regime that would lead Liberia into years of civil war. Talbot's death was a dramatic turning point in Liberia's history, erasing the promise of reform and replacing it with an era of violence and instability.